The harbour at Messina catches the October light in shades of amber and pale gold. Fishing boats rock gently against the quay while larger vessels wait at anchor, their hulls dark against water that holds the last warmth of summer. The air carries salt and the smell of rope and tar, the familiar perfume of a port city that has grown wealthy on the traffic between east and west. Merchants move along the docks with purpose, their voices rising in negotiation, their hands gesturing toward crates and bales stacked on the stone. Children run between the legs of adults, chasing gulls, stealing moments of play before they are called back to work. This is Messina, as it has always been, a city that understands trade the way farmers understand soil. 12 Genoese galleys have arrived from Caffa, from the distant shores of the Black Sea, where the trading posts maintain a fragile commerce with the East. The ships have traveled for weeks, riding the currents through waters that connect the world's markets. They carry silks and spices, furs and gems, the luxuries that Sicilian nobles will purchase and European merchants will transport north. The arrival of a trading fleet is not unusual. It is the rhythm of the city's life. The ropes are thrown, the gangplanks lowered, dock workers move forward to begin the unloading, their muscles accustomed to the weight of crates, their hands calloused from years of labor. The captains step ashore to conduct their business, to negotiate prices, to arrange for the transport of goods to warehouses and markets. Everything proceeds as expected. And then someone notices the crew. They move slowly, the sailors who emerge from below decks. Some lean against railings for support, others do not emerge at all. A dock worker calls out a greeting to a man he recognizes from previous voyages and receives no response, only a blank stare from eyes that seem focused on something far away. The man's skin carries an unusual pallor, a grayness that shows even beneath the weathering of months at sea. He takes 3 steps down the gangplank and collapses. The dock workers gather around him. They roll him onto his back and see something they do not understand. Swellings beneath his jaw, dark and distended, the size of eggs or small apples. His breathing is shallow and rapid. His lips move but produce no words. One of the workers reaches down to help him rise and feels heat radiating from his body, a fever that seems impossible in the cool autumn air. More sailors appear on deck. Some can barely stand. Others are carried by shipmates, who seem only marginally stronger. The captains confer with one another, their expressions troubled. They have lost men during the voyage, many men. The disease appeared in Caffa before they departed, spreading through the port, killing indiscriminately. They thought they had escaped it. They thought the open sea would cleanse whatever affliction had taken hold. They were wrong. The harbour master is summoned. He looks at the dying sailors, at the ships that have carried them across the Mediterranean, at the cargo that has already begun to move into the city. He makes a decision. The ships must leave. The crews must return to their vessels and depart immediately. Messina will not accept this sickness, whatever it is. But the decision comes too late. The cargo has already been unloaded, but the ships did not come alone. Something else traveled in their dark holds, hidden in wood and rope and grain. It left the vessels without being counted, without being stopped. The invisible has already entered the city. No one understands this. No one can understand this. The people of Messina know disease, as they know storms and drought, as misfortune delivered by God or fate, as punishment or trial, as something that happens according to laws that only priests and philosophers pretend to comprehend. They do not know about transmission. They do not know about infection. They know only that sailors are dying on the docks, and that the prudent response is distance. The Genoese ships are driven from the harbour. They drift along the coast, seeking other ports, carrying their afflicted crews to Genoa and Venice and Marseille, spreading outward like ripples from a stone dropped in still water. Messina believes it has protected itself. Messina believes the danger has departed with the galleys. 3 days later, a merchant in the port district falls ill. His wife finds him in their bed, burning with fever, unable to rise. She sends for a physician, who arrives and examines the patient with growing unease. The swellings have appeared beneath the man's arms, and in his groin dark, hard masses. that seem to pulse with their own malevolent life. The physician has never seen anything like this. He offers what comfort he can, prescribes what remedies he knows, and leaves the house quickly, washing his hands in vinegar, muttering prayers under his breath. The merchant dies the following morning. His wife falls ill that evening. Their servant flees the house and carries the sickness to the home where she takes refuge with relatives. Within a week, the entire neighborhood is affected. The dead multiply faster than they can be counted. The church bells begin to ring. They ring for funerals at first, marking each death with the solemnity that tradition demands. But as the days pass and the deaths accelerate, the bells ring continuously, overlapping, creating a discordant music that hangs over the city like a fog. The priests who pull the ropes grow exhausted. The gravediggers who prepare the earth cannot keep pace. Bodies wait in homes and streets for burial that may not come for days. Panic spreads faster than the sickness itself. Rumors multiply in the markets and churches, each more terrifying than the last. The disease is a punishment from God, retribution for sins unnamed. The disease is a poison, spread by enemies through the wells and fountains. The disease is a judgment, a sign of the end times foretold in Scripture. People grasp at explanations because explanation offers the illusion of control. If the cause can be named, perhaps it can be fought, perhaps it can be escaped. The wealthy begin to leave. They load carts with possessions, gather their families and servants, and flee to estates in the countryside. They believe that distance will protect them, that the clean air of rural hills will purify what the crowded city has corrupted. They ride past neighbors who watch them go with a mixture of envy and resentment, past the poor who have no estates to flee to, past the sick who lie in doorways pleading for water or prayer, or simply acknowledgement that they are still alive. Some of these fleeing families carry the sickness with them. They arrive at their country homes feeling safe, feeling that they have outrun the danger, and then one of them develops a fever, and the swellings appear, and within days the household is dying in isolation, with no physicians to attend them, and no priests to deliver last rites. The merchants who remain in Messina close their shops. There is no one to buy and no one to sell. The markets that rang with voices and commerce fall silent. Stalls stand empty, their awnings flapping in the autumn wind, their goods abandoned or looted by those desperate enough to risk the contagion that might cling to cloth or grain. The rhythms of daily life, the predictable pattern of work and rest, of buying and selling, of greeting neighbors and conducting business collapse like a structure whose foundation has been removed. Families seal their doors. They refuse entry to anyone from outside, even relatives, even friends. A knock on the door becomes a source of terror rather than welcome. The sick are left to die alone because nursing them means joining them. Parents abandon children. Children flee from parents. The bonds that hold society together fray and snap under the weight of fear that recognizes no loyalty. The priests try to maintain order. They move through the streets, offering prayers, administering sacraments, urging calm. But the priests fall ill too. They breathe the same air, touch the same hands, receive the same confessions whispered by dying lips. One by one, they sicken and die, until the churches stand empty and the faithful must face God without intermediaries. Some people interpret the abandonment of churches as final proof of divine wrath. If God has withdrawn his servants, surely he has withdrawn his protection. Flagellants appear in the streets, whipping themselves bloody, seeking to appease whatever power has unleashed this punishment. Others turn to the physicians, who offer remedies that do nothing: bleeding, purging, aromatic herbs burned in the sick rooms. The physicians cannot cure what they cannot understand. They can only watch and record and add their own bodies to the mounting toll. The autumn light grows colder, the days shorten, the sun sets earlier each evening, casting long shadows through streets that have grown quiet. The sounds of the city change: fewer voices, fewer footsteps, fewer carts and horses. The silence is punctuated by the bells, by the occasional cry of grief or delirium, by dogs barking at bodies that no one has come to collect. The graveyards fill. When no more space remains, the dead are buried, in fields, in gardens, in pits hastily dug at the edges of the city. The living stacked bodies like cordwood, handling them with rags wrapped around their faces, working quickly, trying to complete the task before the contagion can leap from corpse to gravedigger. They do not know that the fleas have already moved on, already found new hosts, already continued the cycle that will not stop until there are no more hosts left to infect. Ships stand abandoned in the harbor. No crews remain to sail them. No merchants remain to claim their cargo. The goods that arrive from the east rot in holds or warehouses. Untouched, their value rendered meaningless by a catastrophe that recognizes no currency. The fishing boats drift unmanned, their nets trailing in water that continues to lap against the quay as though nothing has changed. But everything has changed. The streets remember voices that will never return. Windows stare empty into winter. Even the sea seems to keep its distance. By December, Messina is a city transformed. Half its population is dead or dying. Those who survive move through streets haunted by memory, stepping around bodies, avoiding houses marked by the signs of affliction. They do not know that the worst is still ahead, that the sickness is already moving north along the trade routes that built their prosperity, that the ships driven from their harbor have carried the same death to every port they touched. The Black Death does not pause in Messina. It does not recognize beginnings or endings. It moves along human contact. It will reach Genoa and Venice before winter sets in. It will cross the Alps by spring. It will burn through France and Spain and England, through the German principalities and the kingdoms of the East. The people of Messina cannot know this. They know only that their world has ended, that the city they built has been unmade by something they cannot see, cannot name, cannot fight. They bury their dead and wait for the dying to stop. They pray to saints who do not answer. They search for meaning in a catastrophe that offers none. The harbor lies quiet beneath the winter sky. The galleys that brought the death have long since sailed away, carrying their cargo to other shores. The docks that rang with commerce stand empty. The warehouses hold goods that no one will buy. The city that thrived on trade has learned what trade can bring, not just silk and spice, but something older, something patient, something that waited in the holds of ships and the fur of rats and the bodies of fleas too small to see. The October light is gone now. December presses down cold and grey. The survivors move through ruins that were once neighborhoods, past houses that were once homes, beneath bells that no longer ring because there is no one left to ring them. Messina will rebuild. The survivors will bury the dead and reclaim the streets and resume the rhythms of commerce that define a port city. Generations will pass. Memory will fade. But the city will never forget entirely. The story will persist in chronicles and oral traditions, in the awareness that prosperity is fragile, that the sea that brings wealth can also bring destruction, that the cargo unloaded on an autumn morning can carry more than any manifest records. The Black Death moves beyond Messina now, following roads and rivers, finding new cities and new victims. It does not hurry. It does not need to. It has time. It has patience. It has the entire continent ahead of it, waiting, unaware, conducting business as usual, while something invisible draws closer with every passing day. The harbor holds the last of the daylight. The water darkens. The ships creak against their moorings. And somewhere in the city, a bell begins to ring again, not for a funeral this time, but simply because someone, somewhere, still has the strength to pull the rope, to make the sound that proves the living remain, that the silence has not yet become complete. The sound carries across the water and fades into nothing. The night comes on, and the dying continues, beyond the harbor, beyond the hills, beyond everything the people of Messina believed they understood about the world and their place within it.